Good evening. It's time to call this August 10th, 2020 workshop and special call board meeting of the San Felipe CISD Board of Trustees. This meeting will be conducted by video conference in accordance with the Governor's authorization concerning suspension of certain open meeting law requirements for COVID-19 coronavirus disaster. Madam Secretary, would you call roll for us?
Yes, sir. Mr. Contreras?
He's out.
Ms. Manuel? Present.
She's here.
Ms. Haynes?
Jamie's here.
Mr. Mesa?
Here.
Mr. Overflow? Present. Mr. Smith?
Mr. Smith is out.
Sir, we have a quorum.
Let the records show that we do have a quorum of board members and that this meeting has been duly called in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, we will have opening ceremonies, first with a moment of silence of personal reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. First item that we have is item 3, school board workshop, A 2020-2021 proposed budget workshop. Amy Childress.
Mr. Mesa, members of the board, the main purpose of today's meeting is to set the hearing for the budget hearing, the date for the budget hearing and tax rate. But as long as we were coming together, we wanted the opportunity just to review the budget workbook one time based on the input that we received. What I'll do, Mr. Mesa, if it's okay, I'll share the budget workbook right now and just mention the recommendations that came in. They're mainly in regards to what we would compensate the teachers. So if it's okay, I'll share the budget workbook now.
Sure, we'll do that.
Yeah, I just need to wait for the control room to make me the host. Okay. Mr. Mesa, members of the board, during the last board meeting we had, the board did set the compensation to be a 1.7% stipend from midpoint. Now, we did have conversations with some board members afterwards to try to understand, and we still made changes to the pay, but there was some interest in changing it. And what I'll do now is I'll briefly review what the board did approve last week, and then I'll review the expense or what the cost would be if we move from a 1.7% increase to a 2% increase. The 1.7 increase that you're seeing here on the screen, what it ends up costing is $653,000 to provide the teachers their $1,000 return to work stipend. As discussed before, there is no return to work stipend for any of the professional groups. There is a 1.7% for paraprofessionals. It totals 174,738. And then there is a return to work stipend for auxiliary that ends up costing 158,000. This is what was approved last week. The board does have the option of changing, making a recommendation and voting on any particular changes. What I'm going to briefly do is review what the cost would be if we were to go to a 2%, which is what was recommended. If we were to give a 2% general pay increase to teachers, it would increase to $707,048. And it would be approximately $1,160 per teacher. Administrative professionals, the total would come at a 2% would come at $145,807. So just to give a quick comparison, we're going from 100 and so I'm sorry for I clicked the wrong one. That's a 0-1. Okay. On paraprofessionals, we're going from 136,000. We're coming from 174,000 to 136. That one is obviously a mistake because this one is it's 217. I was on the wrong line. Okay, so you can see the increase is not that much, Mr. Mesa. And then on auxiliary, yes, sir.
Can I stop you there? Because we had proposed administrative personnel would not be getting an increase.
Right, no, and that's what you approved. So that's at 0 right now. So what I'm talking about here is paraprofessionals. This is just what we listed for everybody when we first did it. But what we're looking at is, that's why I said that was at 0. I was looking at the wrong line.
Yes.
For paraprofessionals, I'm just comparing the cost. We're going from 174 to 217. And for auxiliary, we're going from 158. I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong line. Auxiliary 158 to 126, but this has got to be incorrect because this is listed at 2%. 2% can't be lower than the 1%. So anyhow, there was a recommendation to increase to 2%. My question is, what I would hope the board would discuss today is, y'all want to do a 2% for teachers, paraprofessionals, or auxiliary, or do you want to do 1.7% for teachers and 2% for paraprofessional or auxiliary? That's the kind of discussion that I was hoping we would have today, so that we could go back and write the appropriate recommendation, Mr. Mesa.
Yes, and I just want to make a statement here that the reason we were looking at 2% because we realized that there will be a financial fallout for the following 2 or 3 years. So I want to make sure that teachers and anyone else that is listening, auxiliary, we are going to face a financial fallout in the coming years. For next year, we're able to do this, but more than likely for year 2 and 3, and possibly 4, we might not have the monies to be able to allow a stipend or a salary increase, because there will be a substantial financial fallout. And with that being said, I'll turn it over to board members because I think all of us realize what we would like to have, the percentage. So I'll open it up for questions. Mrs. Webb, can you unmute yourself?
Mine is more of a comment. At our last meeting, I did make reference to the 2% in our budget workshop because I was not able to get on the online to give my comments on there. But I did allude to the fact that I would prefer that everybody, all teachers, paraprofessionals, and auxiliary get the 2%. I mean, these are the people that are in the front line, have been in the front line with everything that's going on. then they definitely deserve that 2%. And that 2% is not that much of an increase versus a 1.7. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes, I did the same thing. I asked for a 2% for teachers and paras and auxiliary on the little worksheet that we did. So that's what I would go for.
Okay. Mr. Orfeld?
I'm totally fine with the 2% across the board because of where the district and the state will be funding wise over the next probably 2 bienniums there. So, like Ms. Webb stated, these are the individuals that are on the front line, are going to be on the front line again. Provide a little, at least for this coming year, a little more financial security. In the sense of a 2% as opposed to the 1.7. So I'd be all for the 2% across the board.
Thank you, Mr. Orfeld. Amy?
I agree. I'm okay with the 2% across the board just because of the hardships that we might face in the future as well. So I'm okay with the 2%.
Thank you, Amy. And I just want to say that we try to do that on the interactive workbook, and there wasn't a place for us to place at 2%. So, we had discussed that, and then when we approved the compensation plan, we wanted to make sure it's a 2%. So with that being said, I'm all for the 2%. Again, auxiliary, paraprofessional, teachers.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, if I could just mention one other thing. What we will now do is we'll take the budget workbook and we are going to build into the budget that we're going to recommend the $65 per month per employee contribution to the insurance and a 2% return to work stipend for teachers, auxiliary, and paraprofessionals. At the next board workshop, which is scheduled for a week from today, next Monday, we will bring the compensation plan again for your approval with those changes, mainly the 2%. And at that point, we'll also include a summary of the budget of what it looks like. So it won't be a budget workshop, but we'll have a budget discussion in the presentation, just so that everybody can see where the budget is leading up to the budget hearing that we'll have.
I have a question there regarding insurance, because originally there is enough fund balance in the insurance fund to be able to support that $65 increase per employee from the fund balance and not have to tax the teachers and employees for that amount.
That's correct, Mr. Mesa. There's enough money in the fund balance for the health insurance to provide for what we call a maximum liability, but to make sure that there continues to be enough money in the budget, the board, the administration is recommending that we increase the district's contribution, not the employee, but the district's contribution into the health fund. So whatever we contribute already every month, we're recommending that we increase it by $65 a month from the local budget. So that means that we'll go into the local budget and we'll make further reductions in other areas so that we can be able to provide that additional contribution from the district's bank account. And then we believe that the current fund balance and the additional $65 to the monthly contribution that the district already made will be enough to continue to have a fund balance for at least another year in the self-funded insurance plan. But that will involve some cuts in the other areas, and that's why we want to make that presentation on Monday, just so that the board sees where we would be cutting. As I mentioned to you last week, we had ordered enough laptops for our students. They just have to get here. And I outlined that in the board update that I provided. You can see where we're waiting for, I think a little bit over 3,000 laptops of the Chromebook type. So I feel confident that we can cut in some of those areas and be able to provide a solid budget for y'all to review on Monday. So that coupled with the compensation plan, is there any other parts of the workbook that the board would like to review tonight?
I think,
None of it changed so
I
far.
think there will be, because I know Ms. Orfeld had pointed out, for example, the track at the high school. And so if we look at, I know the area that Mr. Orfeld, we're talking about construction and again, the painting projects and so forth.
Yes, sir. In getting to the to be able to fund the additional raise and the health insurance, we would probably be looking at eliminating at a minimum everything that is here in the maintenance part, and looking at technology, probably half of this amount here, which is what holds our virtual environment. And then in the construction piece, we would see if there needs to be further cuts, then we would definitely go here, which is in the track resurfacing. The only reason that I'm not able to give you the exact amount today that we would cut is because finance is still working with human resources to just see how much in personnel reductions we've been able to make so far. But I feel confident that by Monday, we'll be able to give you all a really good picture and make a recommendation as to what other projects need to be cut. I think the board agreed, Mr. Mesa, that we really want to try to keep the life skills unit. So that one's probably going to be the last one, and hopefully we don't have to go anywhere near that project.
That's correct, sir. If anybody would like to, again, have their input. Mr. Orfeld?
Just a, it's gonna be an unpopular question, or when we talked about teachers, para, auxiliary, there we've used the term, several of you have used the term on the front lines. For our principals and APs and counselors who are also on the front lines as well. Can we maybe in an update sometime this week get what it would be just cost wise, just for like those three categories in the administrative? I'm not talking like the upper echelon, like cabinet and stuff like that, but those who are on the campuses, just to see what it would be to satisfy my own curiosity, or as far as
just campus-based administrators.
Yeah.
Counselors and campus-based administrators.
Yeah.
I'll commit to providing an update before the board meeting on Monday. It might be as late as on this weekend's update, but I'll definitely get you all that information, and then y'all can decide.
I'm just curious as to what it would look like. I know as a board we've said we were going to stay away from that. I'm just, for my own curiosity, there for future planning. Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. Orfeld. And I just want to interject again. I think all of us were in agreement that life skills is something that we definitely need, and the track not so much, and the painting projects not so much. But I would like to hear some discussion from other board members in regard to the technology items that were, again, placed for orders. Is there anyone that would like to comment on that? Because Dr. Rios, you said that there would be some cuts for technology.
Yes, Mr. Mesa. So let me bring this item up here. Let me share it again. If we look at this this budget, if we look at technology, we had talked about increasing the one-to-one devices, but there really is no need at this point because we've already ordered what we would have purchased next year from a local budget. And I had suggested that perhaps if we needed some, then we would take from fund balance. But when we went back and looked at the actual number that we've already ordered and that we're waiting to receive, there's no need to take it from local budget this year or from fund balance. So this amount goes away, and then the infrastructure that we use to support the technology, I feel confident cutting this in half. So even though we're cutting the purchase of laptops from next year's budget, that's only because we've already bought them here at the end, trying to get them before school year started so every student that needs a device would have one. We've already ordered them, so even though we're cutting the money for it, we've already allocated the money from this year's budget. That's why I was talking about not allocating money to buy any more devices. But the truth is, we've already bought them. We're waiting for them to be received.
And see, that's a concern that I would like to have input from board members, because we really don't know how long this thing is going to last. And if we need to build up our hardware, software for virtual instruction, I think that's an item that's important. Mr. Overfeld, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I guess two comments. On the virtual side, for that line, the 600-some-thousand for the virtual, right now, do we have enough cloud-based and virtual space that when, I guess essentially what it is when hopefully things get back to normal soon, and we transition back onto the campuses, they're more full-time, our current virtual infrastructure, will it be able to sustain that, or would we be hamstringing ourselves by reducing the amount, looking down the line? And then secondly, I think, and I've said it before in the other meetings, 10,500 students, yes, not everybody needs a laptop or a Chromebook or an iPad because they may have one of their own, but I think a sufficient supply and stock is a good thing to have in the event that this carries further down the line. So those are my two kind of comments on that.
Yes, sir, Mr. Massa, if I may. The virtual environment that we have right now, which really what that means is that when students log on from home, it creates a virtual image on the computer that gives them access to anything they would have access to when they're on campus. So they're going to see the screen at home just like they would see it at school, and obviously with all the safety features. Because of all the asynchronous instruction that's going on, primarily for kids in K through second grade, we have enough to support it. Now we obviously have to continue to make improvements on it. And my conversation with Mr. Hangave this past week, he agreed that reducing that amount in half would provide him the necessary funds to continue to upgrade it and sustain it. On the laptop side, you're 100% correct, Mr. Overfeld. We need to continue to build the inventory, but we feel that what we have in order right now, the 3,000, would be more than enough to get us through this year. And halfway through the year, we'll be able to better assess what the needs will be for the following year. And because our ultimate recommendation would be to not take money from fund balance this year, there would be close to $4 million in fund balance, so that if we needed to take 500,000 halfway through the year and recommend the purchase of laptops, we could. to begin to prepare for the following year. But we are well positioned this year for the 2020-2021 school year. All we need is for those laptops to arrive.
Thank you.
And Dr. Rios, what I'm concerned with is, we have different scenarios. We're experiencing schools that have opened up, and once they have the spread, like 9 students, test positive, they shut down. And so that's my concern. If we have to shut down where everything goes virtual, I would like to be in a comfortable position that instruction will continue without disruption.
Absolutely, Mr. Mesa, and the laptops that we have on order right now would provide for that. If we had to continue the rest of the year in a complete remote environment.
Okay. Amy had a question.
Dr. Rios, would you have enough laptops just in case the scenario where a student's laptop stopped working, so they can come to the district and get another laptop? Is that in your purchase already? Do you have that scenario covered as well? Because something, they may have to come get one, check out one, their their hard top isn't working or whatever, it's not working, and then they can just come to us and get another one. Do you have that scenario accounted for as well?
Yes, ma'am, but only if we receive, or I shouldn't say only, but yes, but only after we receive the order. Once we receive the order, we've ordered enough so that we could not have to issue the desktops. But now that we've issued the desktops, we're going to have plenty of laptops left over, so we could do that if someone had to go get fixed.
Okay.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, Ms. Gonzalez?
I guess I can ask you because I've gotten some calls about the desktops and that they don't work on hotspots. Is that correct, Mr. Hudders? And they don't have, the family does not have Wi-Fi. So what good is a desktop on it?
So,
I'd ask.
yes, ma'am. So we're doing 2 things. The first part is that we are going to do a contract with Spectrum to have connections in some areas. So we're going to have a combination of connections between Spectrum and then the hotspots that we purchase. For that reason and other reasons, we're not going to give all the business to just one company to make sure that we provide real-time connectivity to as many students as possible. So there are a host of issues that technology is working through, and that's one of them, and that's one of the solutions. Of course, there are some kids that got a desktop that live in an area where Spectrum won't service, and then for them, we're going to have to go with asynchronous instruction versus synchronous instruction.
Okay.
Which is not real-time instruction, but it still meets the requirements from the Texas Education Agency.
So the parents that picked up the desktops, did you know whether or not they had Wi-Fi? You asked the parents, right?
Right, it just depends on the address because we have not issued Wi-Fi to anybody yet. We're going to start that process this week. So what Mr. Henge will do is he'll look at everybody who got a desktop, and then we'll try to get them Spectrum connectivity for that reason, so that they can be hardwired. But if they're not able to, then until we get the laptops received, we will have to do asynchronous instruction with the students. So we have a plan for all scenarios, and it really is just a whole lot to handle. But I think that there, between technology and the campus principals and Ms. Gomez, we'll have a plan for everybody, and we're about to just have a solution for everybody here within the next 5 days.
Because they're going to Spectrum and trying to get it themselves, but it's too expensive, of course, you know that. But I'm sure there's you all got that worked out. That's right. Thank you, sir.
We're doing a contract with Spectrum ourselves. We're paying for it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Ms. Webb?
My question would be to Dr. Rios. What role does CNI play with the instruction and online learning?
Well, first of all, CNI has been busy first trying to put the documents together where they have links to the electronic material that they need. That's been a big part of the summer. The second part, the setting up all the trainings for teachers to become knowledgeable with the Google platforms and the Canvas platform, getting to understand the differences with each one to supplement, because not every platform is complete, correct? So they'll be providing trainings with that and helping as much as possible. I don't know if that quite answered, or was there something more specific?
Well, I'm also thinking, if we're looking at CNI, are they working with K through A instruction for online learning, or are they also working from K or pre-K all the way through high school? What exactly is it that we're working on?
They work all the way through high school, ma'am. For example, the Canvas platform, that goes all the way through 12th grade.
Right.
So they work with all the grade levels and trying to provide the resources and working out different issues that come up. Now, not that the bigger need or the priority would be, but as I mentioned before, we have to get those curriculum documents complete. So a whole lot of the work, for example, we have one coordinator that works a whole lot with the math curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
We have another coordinator that works entirely with the documents. And then we have a third coordinator that is like our technology go-to person. So there's a whole lot of work, and a lot of it does revolve in pre-K through 8th grade, but they certainly support the entire district.
Okay. Now, the positions in question that were brought up last time that we met, that I had a question over as far as the word specialist on there, these individuals would be more or less working with what aspect of technology and what grade level?
The individuals, as I described last week, their job would be to prepare the curriculum documents in K through 8th grade to get them technology ready, to where all the documents would be linked with the appropriate resources. Every subject area and every grade level, kindergarten through 8th grade.
Okay, and then what happens from 9th through 12th? What do we have in there? Or are we looking at the person that's already in technology and CNI and the secondary coordinator to work in that aspect?
The person that does most of the technology work at the for the district, which would be Libby in this case, would help at the secondary level. And then, of course, once we get done with the elementary curriculum documents, then the focus would shift to secondary, particularly in the ELA area and the math area.
Now,
see, the big difference is, Guanajuato, and I know that a whole lot of y'all understand this, but the biggest difference is that at the secondary level, we have content experts.
mm-hmm.
If you teach history, more than likely you got a degree in history or something related to social studies. If you teach math, you got a math degree. If you teach science, you got a science degree. There
Right.
is, but at the elementary level, you have a specialist, and because they have to teach all core area subjects, they need a whole lot more support in terms of the resources that we provide from the documents. That's why we have to make sure that they have a whole lot of support at the elementary level. And that's why we put them first.
Okay. And at the elementary level, we also have a reading code specialist or coordinator that's supposed to be working with the early literacy all the way through 6th grade, 8th grade in reading?
Yeah, no, ma'am. That used to be the case, but if you recall, the commissioner set the reading, I would say reading camps, but the reading academies is a requirement. So the person that used to be our early literacy coordinator is 100% in charge of providing the training, because we have to have all staff trained in those literacy academies. So Ms. Gonzalez is working 100% in meeting that requirement. And we have an agreement with the service center as to what they're doing. So we no longer have that, ma'am.
Okay. And then I guess my last question, if these two individuals are hired, and I still don't care for the word specialist, maybe a different word, because they're not master degreed in specific area, are they temporarily assigned to this position, let's say a year or 2 years? Let's say that everything goes back to normal. We're not needed there with the technology aspect of it. Things are already back in order. Are they going to go back into the classroom, or what's the, in other words, I don't want to create a position just for the sake of creating a position right now.
Yeah.
If you understand where I'm going with it.
No, I understand. They're going to be in the position as long as the need is there. When the need is no longer there, at that point, then we'll come back to the board and we'll have a discussion, and we'll see if it's back in early literacy that we need to support, or if it's back in the classroom. Absolutely, they're not going to be somewhere where they're not productive. We'll have a full understanding of what the more pressing needs are at that time, and if there isn't a need there, then absolutely back in the classroom. And that's why we're recommending that the pay stay the same, so that there could be some ability to transition them to where they're needed, including in the classroom, if that's what the scenario is at that time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Webb. This is a discussion item, no action will be taken, but I think we've had enough discussion. Unless someone else has a question, we will finalize this at a later meeting. No questions, then we'll go on to, we'll adjourn this workshop and go into our regular meeting, and we only have one item under business and finance, and that's item 13A, consideration to approve the board meeting date for the purpose of adopting the budget and the proposed tax rate to be set for August 24th, 2020. There's a typo there.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. The 2020-2021 budget is being prepared for the purpose of adopting the budget and the proposed tax rate to be set for August 24th, 2020. The notice of public meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate will be published in the Del Rio News Herald on August the 12th, 2020 and August 16th, 2020. The notice will include our rollback tax rate and our proposed tax rate for M&O of 0.9927 cents and an INS tax rate of 0.057 cents.
Questions? Amy, I have one. I know that in the past we had Mrs. What was her name?
Ms. Munoz, Ms. B?
Me B.
Yes.
Come before the board and propose, since we do not have certified values at this point, how will this be done?
Currently I have, I will be getting with Mr. Muskis, who's serving in that position at this time. And I have for him to come on at our next board meeting and to, I guess, I don't want to say certify what we have available at this time.
Okay. Which we would have the understanding that it would change once
yes, sir.
all the protests have been done.
Yes, the letter that I have typed up, the wording does say the estimated, still says the word estimated instead of certified values.
Okay, which I know they will change, the numbers will change definitely. It's just hard to say how we can, I guess we're going by last year's amount, pretty much. But it will change at a later time, so I'm sure we would have to make some adjustments.
Well, I mean, we will be for our budget purposes this year. We will be using the last amounts that we received from the appraisal district on the 22nd of July.
Okay. Anyone with a question? I know that I think Mrs. Guanajuato Webb has a conflict with that date. Correct, Mrs. Webb?
That is correct. I will not be able to attend on that day.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we do have a quorum. So if we could somehow have Betty poll the board members to make sure that we will have a quorum for that meeting.
Yes, sir.
So with that being said, I think, again, the one person that we know will not be here would be Miss Guanajuato Webb. If I'll call for the recommendation from administration, and then I'll ask for a motion to approve this date.
Right. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the date of the public hearing for the purpose of adopting the budget and the proposed tax rate be set for August 24th, 2020 at 6 p.m. and approve for the proposed tax rate be used in the publication of the notice of public meeting to discuss budget and proposed tax rate.
You've heard the recommendation from administration. Is there a motion for approval? Motion by Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Mr. Overfelt. All those in agreement, please approve. I say yes. Amy Haynes? Yes. Ms. Linda Guanajuato Webb? Yes. Ms. Gonzalez? Yes. And Mr. Overfelt? Yes. Motion's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the time is 6:12 p.m. We're going to go into executive session or closed session permitted by sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.073, 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, 551.084, and 551.087 of the Government Code Texas Open Meetings Act. If a vote is required, it will be taken upon reconvening into open session. We're now in executive session. Okay, the time is 7:12 p.m. We're going to reconvene into open session. No action was taken in executive. We're down to item 18 on our agenda. Take action, consideration to approve the personnel report to include new hires, district vacancies, retirements, and resignations. Saide Garcia. Is someone?
Yeah, she's I need to let her in right now. She just needs to join. If you give me a second, I'll let her in. There she is.
You're down to personnel, baby.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. It is the recommendation of administration to recommend the following personnel. Peter Martinez Rivera, special education teacher for Del Rio Middle School, 7th grade.
With the recommendation from administration, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mr. Overfelt. Is there a second to the motion? Amy Haynes, all those in favor? I'll say in favor. Mrs. Webb, in favor. Ms. Gonzalez, in favor. Mr. Overfelt, in favor. And Amy Haynes, in favor. Unanimously approved.
Thank
There
you.
being no other items on the agenda, is there a motion for adjournment? Made by Mrs. Webb, seconded by Mr. Overfelt. All those in agreement? Mrs. Webb, in agreement. Ms. Gonzalez, in agreement. Mr. Orfeld, and Ms. Amy Haynes. Thank you all and good night, everyone.